Hey, Mike
Matt.
Schindler, we're living in a world that feels more unpredictable than ever, but most people don't even have a word for it. You wrote a documentary, became a movie on Netflix called It's VUCA in the 21st Century, The Secrets to Living in the 21st Century.
Hmm.
Mike, what do you think's going on? What is this instability, this volatility that people are feeling, but maybe they're not really able to give a name to it? What would you say?
Yeah, well, I think it's just massively accelerated exponentially too, right? I mean, you kind of nailed it a little bit, Joey. It's VUCA, came out of the Army War College, stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. And it's when life as we know it changes rapidly, right? You and I both served in the military, and those were VUCA environments, right? Everything was volatile, everything was uncertain, there was complex issues. Um, there was a lot of ambiguity, and we would put missions together. And this is where I equate it to people today: is people have their jobs, but now their jobs are volatile, right? Their jobs are uncertain. There's a lot of complex issues in what's going on in the geopolitical standpoint. There's a lot of ambiguity in what tomorrow looks like, both personally and professionally for people. And when we did that movie, I did it with Chris Nolan in 2020. That was the pandemic. And to be honest with you, Joey, I thought this movie's going to have a hard time outliving the pandemic. But what I didn't realize is that
Hmm.
it's massively accelerating. Like,
Right.
with the age of AI and job industry changes and geopolitical and I mean it's just crazy what's going on, right? And so people
Right.
have this sense of overwhelm. And as General Casey says, the first step is naming it. And I think what we realized through this whole experience is that 95% of people are living unconscious right now. They're just trying to keep up. They're living, they're living as a human 1.0 instead of a human 10.0. And they're just
Wow.
they're surviving, not thriving. And VUCA is really designed. There's a flip side to it called vision, understanding, clarity, and adaptability. That's the human 10.0 side. Is we've got an opportunity in America today, and I think you leaders like you leaders that we are surrounded by have an opportunity today to help people elevate to who God sees them to be, right? Instead of falling victim to external forces, it's really understanding who you are internally and then shining your light externally so that you can control that VUCA environment. I know that's a long
Wow, that's
answer to
excellent.
your short
You,
short
you hit
question,
it
but
out the
yeah,
park, and
yeah,
welcome if you're watching this. This is just a real talk conversation, what
yeah.
I call real talk, which is helping us become real life leaders that people love to follow for your leadership and your legacy, not just your professional success. I'm addicted to learning from extraordinary people like Mike Schindler, co-author and legendary documentary. You've got to check it out if you haven't heard about it yet. Um, if you've ever felt overwhelmed, uncertain, or stuck, maybe even bored,
Hmm.
maybe burnout, anxiety, and stress in your personal life, in your professional life, I wrote a book, Real Life Leadership, and I'm addicted to meeting and learning from extraordinary people like Mike. So happy to have you and to join us and listen in and possibly share or maybe give this to your team. So, Mike, you built an entire documentary around this Army War
Hmm.
College documentary. I was fascinated with the flip side of VUCA. So we know volatility,
Hmm.
uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. I mean, epic fury comes to mind. The
Yeah.
war in Ukraine. I remember putting Zelensky in my book because the lesson of the show up. He literally showed up. Open line in that chapter. I don't need a ride. I need bullets. I mean, if there
Yeah.
ever was a leader living in volatility today, it's that Ukrainian leader. And then even our government. Look at all the changes and impact and results so quick. And regardless of your political persuasion, it creates change, and change creates pain. And so, tell us what the flip side. What is the flip of VUCA that we can apply in our business life, maybe our personal life? What's the flip?
Yeah, the flip side, it's so great. I mean, Mark Devine talks about this. And so Mark Devine, the former Navy commander, SEAL, does Unbeatable Mind, SEAL Fit. And he talks about flipping the script. And it really it's based off of and I believe this was coined by Bob Johansson, who's also in the film. The flip side of what we say the human 1.0 side is vision, understanding, clarity, and adaptability. And this is what in Navy terms or even in military terms we say controlling the controllables, right? The things that we can control.
Mm.
We can't control the volatility. We can't control the uncertainty or the complexity and the ambiguity. That stuff is external. That's all external, right? I mean, when you were doing mission planning, probably similar to me, or being a part of missions, and Casey was known for saying is there's two types of plans: plans that might work, plans that don't work, right? I mean, that's kind of life today. Is we set out on our plan and then plans don't work and then people fall victim to the external. Well, this didn't work, and there's so many external forces that interrupt our plan. But if we focus on the flip side, Joey, the vision, the understanding, the clarity, the adaptability, these are the internal forces that we can control. Okay. So if I know what my moonshot in life is, and I teach it through something called the rule of five, okay, or the eights, okay, and the eights, the clarity tool, this is how you get to the positive side of VUCA is, and I'm sure you and I, we probably, because I'll say the work that we do is ministry related, whether it's a for-profit or nonprofit, it really is ministry related, right? It's washing the hands and feet of leaders to help them elevate and make impact. That if I look at my life, mental, physical, spiritual, relationship, and finance, those are the five core areas that humans make decisions from, right? Think about that. Mentally, physically, spiritually, relationally, financially. The issue is in America, and certainly probably throughout the world, is a lot of people make most of their decisions off of finances. And that's why they struggle mentally. And that's why they struggle physically and spiritually and in their relationships, because they've not evaluated those other four areas. And so the key, and this is where we talk about, God, for me, very important, is scripture and following Jesus is all about alignment. So how is it our life on earth isn't about alignment too? So if the five core areas that we make decisions from, mental, physical, spiritual, relationships, finances, those need to be in alignment. And that's where we teach the eights. That's how you get to the positive side of VUCA. So when you say mentally, if I had my best day mentally, what does that look like? Can I map that out? And if I had my best day physically, what does that look like? And spiritually, and in my relationship, and financially. And now how does everything I do in my life feed those eights? Is what I'm about to do right now, is it going to feed my eight, or is it going to take away from the eight? And why do I do eights? Because I think 10 is heaven. And the eight, you flip it on its side, is the infinity loop. And in the Bible, it talks about that as a symbol for new beginnings. And I believe that every day we have an opportunity to hit new beginnings. And so that's the positive side of VUCA. Again, I give you these long answers to your short questions. So, but it's
Sure.
so important that
But
people
because we're not talking
understand.
about, yeah, I want to interrupt because
Yeah,
we're not talking about theory, right? And just an acronym.
no,
But we're learning how to survive and lead in real life too, and personal life. So how do you break this down? Because you brought together generals, SEALs, authors. Michael
yep,
Hyatt is in
yep,
your
yep.
documentary. What's the common thread you see how they handle all this VUCA and the flip side of it in your personal life? Because what I have found the tension to manage is the high performers out there, the world's most elite, successful people tend to have the, let's just say, the most VUCA in their personal life.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
have you found people like that operating at the top of their professional game, but also enjoying their personal life with meaning and fulfillment? Because there's so much adversity out there attacking people's enjoyment of their personal life.
yeah, yeah. It's a great question. It's because they've mastered the positive side of VUCA. And when I say mastered the positive side of that, they understand what their vision is. They understand what their vision is spiritually. They understand what their vision is in their relationship, what their vision is in their finances. They clearly understand what that is. They've mapped that out, right? They understand
Yeah,
it. They understand that when things hit them in the face, like Mike Tyson is famous for that, right? Everybody's got a plan until you get hit in the face, right? They
in the
understand
face,
that they
love
will,
that.
yeah, they will get hit in the face. They know this, right? They know that something will happen in their life that's going to hit them in the face. They understand that. but they understand that when the vision is big, the circumstances don't matter. So they're locked into their vision. They understand that when I get hit in the face, okay, I have clarity on what I'm going to do. They're thinking second and third order effects, right? They've developed foresight to understand that if then, if this happens, then this is my approach. If this happens, then this is my approach. And I would say that many of those leaders are probably rooted in Jesus too, right? They understand that no matter what happens, Jesus has their back, right? Now, not all, but I think we're seeing it in the sports arena now, certainly in the college arena, where these young players are now just professing their relationship with Christ. We're seeing it in the NFL. We're seeing it in a number where people are starting to realize that, wait a second, all the external stuff goes away. And am I going to be
Mhm.
reactive to all the things that are attacking me from the external, or am I going to spend time understanding who I am internally and what is my foundation? And I would tell you that those that we
Or
featured
no.
in the documentary are very clear on their eights, Joey. They know what it means to be
Yeah.
innate spiritually. They just know. They know what it means
Yeah.
to be innate financially.
You brought up athletes, and I once said there's nothing more insignificant than an ex-athlete, and so much. That's why it's so important to have a recreation, constantly reinventing yourself, and don't retire, refire. And
Yeah.
legendary Kim Blanchard said that. But Mike, when did VUCA stop being a concept, and when did it become personal for you?
Oh boy. Wow. I mean, when we did the film, that was VUCA environments, right? We shot that during a pandemic. So there was a lot of rules and stipulations, and Hollywood was shut down, and there was a whole VUCA environment, and I had not mastered it at that point. Man, I was not to disparage anybody, but I was schizophrenic at best during that time, right? I mean, I was trying to do this film, and I was freaking out about certain things, and I mean, it was when did it really become fundamental? Um, Honestly, probably about 3 years ago. I was in a major disruption in my 28-year marriage, and I was going through therapy and counseling and really trying to figure it out and not fix my relationship, so to speak, but to fix me. Because that's the only thing I could control, right? I can't fix somebody else. So I had to really do a lot of self-evaluation, and I had to ask myself the tough questions, Joey. And VUCA really is rooted in, it's really VUCA is all about where am I playing small and where am I lying to myself, right? I mean, if you look at that, and for me, it was in my relationship. Spiritually, I thought I was good, but I realized I was probably a 4 on a scale of 8 in my spiritual walk.
Mm.
Mentally, I was probably about a 3, right? And here I am professing this,
Hmm.
and yet I'm struggling, and I'm really having to ask myself, where am I lying to myself, and where am I playing small? Because
Sure.
that's the only way that you can elevate to the human 10.0 level. And so it was through my relationship that began to reveal the areas of I'm going to call them broken, where I was broken. Um, but I'm going to rephrase that to say where I had a lot of opportunity for growth. And for everybody, it hits them differently. Some people's
Uh,
finances, I mean, it just hits everybody differently.
I really relate to the real life talk you just, that's why I love real life
Yeah.
talks. Imposter syndrome, because I've struggled with that. Ironically, I
Mm.
wrote a book. It's called Here's My Pitch, Mike. Look, here's my pitch. Where's my book? And like 10 people are going to watch this, you know? So
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
here's my book, real
Yeah.
life. And,
Yeah.
but what I found is something inside of me felt like, although I wanted to find out what are the extraordinary people who are personally successful and professionally successful, what are those lessons that we could capture and apply in our real life?
Yeah.
And I found this constant tension of imposter syndrome, feeling like I'm not living the message that I'm preaching. And oftentimes, research has shown it's the people who are feeling they're not good enough, or the mom who feels I'm not a good mom. Pew Research shows that in real life, according to the other appraisal of other people's perception, they're an elite mother or a high
Yeah.
performer. And we sometimes don't realize that these triggers and these tensions are really trauma responses to
Oh,
wanting
yeah.
to be a genuine, real, raw person. So for anyone watching this who feels overwhelmed right now, how would you describe what VUCA actually feels like in real life for them? Because they may be battling the same imposter syndrome. It just might look differently.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think it's pretty, I think it's really clear. It's that person that doesn't want to get out of bed, right? That's the first step.
Hmm.
It's the person that dreads every day and can't wait for the weekend, right? It's the person that gets back from a, business trip that is not looking forward to going home. It's that person
Wow.
that is struggling financially and just saying to themselves truly, like, I just wish it was over. Uh, it's that person that says, you know what, I just got to have another drink because if I have another drink, it'll just numb, just just enough that I can just deal with it. It's the person that wants to spend more time on video games than they do in conversations. Um, and the Japanese have a great method for doing this. Is in America, I think we get so fixated on goals, Joey. Like you got to have your goal, you got to write it down, you got to have your vision, right? And granted, like I'm all about vision and understanding, clarity, and adaptability. But the success to that is the plus ones. It's the plus ones.
Mhm.
It's the first thing that you do, right? It's the laying in bed and going, you know what? I'm going to count from three down to one, and I'm going to get out of bed and I'm going to make the bed. That's all I'm going to do right now. And it's going to be that micro win that's going to give you the dopamine hit. And then it's going to be okay. I made the bed, and now I'm just going to have a cup of tea. I'm just going to start my morning that way. And you know
Yeah.
what? For the first time, I'm going to open up my Bible and I'm just going to read one paragraph because I don't understand that thing. That is the best leadership book in the world
Wow.
because the leaders in there are flawed beyond belief. People think,
Right.
oh my God, they're saints and they're all this other stuff. Maybe so. Maybe we put them on pedestals, but you got to read their stories. Like you talk about real life stories. Come on. I mean, those leaders in there were flawed, which should be a sense of relief for anybody that is watching this that says, I do not deserve to be a leader or I'm not qualified. Go open that book. Go open that book and watch what leaders who you think, geez, how did that person ever lead in motion? How did that person ever develop a kingdom? How did they do this? Like, and it's just the plus ones, Joey. We get so fixated, and I do work with people on their clarity, but that's why I start with the eights. I ask them simple questions. If you had your best day, what does that look like for you? I've asked O8s this question, and E2s the same question. I've asked CEOs of major Fortune
Yeah.
500 companies and small business owners that same question. I'm like, now we're just spitballing here. If you had your best day, what does that look like? Mike, listen, everything's hitting me in the face right now. I don't even know what that looks like. And I'm like, I know that's probably where we have to start, right?
Yeah.
Because if you don't know,
Elijah comes to mind.
yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. See, you
Yeah,
get
he's in the
it.
cave. Yeah, he one moment he's at the height of his game, Mount Carmel, and just national influence, and that literal the fire of God comes down on his, let's call it his work,
Yeah.
and for all those that may not be in the Bible. And then he retreats. He gets a death threat because of his influence and his success. And he retreats to a cave thinking he's the only leader in that domain, in that place. And the Lord, in a gentle, calm whisper, provides the next small step, and it was for him to eat and sleep. And
Yep.
after he wakes, he gets direction, and the Lord reveals 7,000 other leaders like him that did not bow down to the, let's just call it the anxiety whirlwind we all live in. And
Yep.
I think that's something to take home. Those next steps. Well said. What
Yeah.
about where do you think most people get it wrong when trying to handle uncertainty today? I mean, World War III. I mean, you got stocks up and down. We've got uncertainty at work. We've got um, change and the uncertainty at home, and I mean, even the internet. Have you tried raising teenagers today? Like, and then so
Yeah.
mundane mediocrity. To just complete anxiety cycle, right? Burn
Yeah.
down, burn out. So
Yeah.
where do you think most leaders get it wrong with uncertainty?
Well, with uncertainty, and I'll just say not just uncertainty, but I think in most areas of their life, Joey, is they're trying to lead out of an old playbook that is no longer relevant. They're trying to muscle through it, trying to grit through it. Um, the uncertainty piece requires one, and, and I'm going to give you the two secrets, the two words. Anytime I'm uncertain about something, that's an opportunity. Okay, and
What do you mean?
I
Because that's confusing to me because
yeah,
um,
I'm going to walk you through it, right? So if there's uncertainty, let's just use a mission set. Okay, we plan for a mission, right? And we're on the X, right? The enemy's firing, things are, I mean, it's chaotic. And we're like, we didn't plan for this because we didn't understand we were going to get flanked over here or something was going to happen over here. Or I didn't understand that my stocks were just going to take a 20% drop. Like that's uncertain. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do about my bank account or paying the electric bill or whatever. Okay, that's uncertainty. Oftentimes in those moments, we operate out of the sympathetic reaction mode. Well, I'm gonna grit this through. I'm gonna respond right now. I'm just gonna grit through this using historical data, which doesn't apply today oftentimes because the rules have changed. And so what I end up doing in uncertain moments, like stressful moments, I'm going to call those uncertain moments stressful moments. What do I do? Joy, I say this out loud, pause. I say that one word, pause. That one word will move you from the sympathetic reaction mode into the parasympathetic, which is a response mode. Now, where did I learn this? Certainly, I learned it in my training, but I learned it as a kid from my mother, to be honest with you, because I was kind of a wild child. And my mom had this way. She's 5 foot and she was a barrel racer. And we grew up on with horses. And she was a no BS type of woman. And if I was being unruly, she'd look at me and she'd say, Michael, give me a moment. That moment probably prevented her from beating the stink out of me with a horsewhip or, you know what I'm saying? But that moment, she moved herself from the, now that I understand the science behind it, from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic. And when I say pause, I'm giving myself time to reflect, number one. And then I say, what a gift. And I know your listeners are going to be, what are you talking about, Mike? I can't pay my mortgage. I can't pay this. I can't put food on the table. And you're saying that's what a gift? Well, I'll tell you why that's a gift, because in that very moment, our brain clicks into the opportunity to say, how do I figure this out objectively instead of reacting and freaking out? If this is a gift, there's an opportunity for me to figure this out. You know what? Maybe I got to work part time at Safeway. Maybe I got to drive Uber. Maybe I got to, you know, clean toilets, whatever it is. Joey, there was a period of my time when I lost all my contracts and I was out cleaning people's toilets at night,
yeah,
right? Wasn't proud. It was not a proud moment for me.
thanks for being real.
But here I am on stages, and then the next thing, I'm making $2,500 a month, and my burn rate is $12,000 a month,
Right,
right?
right. Well, that's extremely humiliating, and when you get mid-age or mid-career professional, it's very easy to stay in that uncertainty and live in that trauma response. And then it's like a cycle. Other areas of your life can go, the script can flip in the negative. But it sounds like you adopted what I saw as a trend with extraordinary people like you. In uncertainty, you moved. You didn't stay put and isolate
That's right.
yourself. Like physical movement, I have found, even a mundane job, putting myself in a secondary job, if you will,
Hmm.
triggers my mind to, neuropathway forms and, ideas and friends and networking. So I saw a trend in my own life too by getting out of my house and working
Yeah.
remote for many years. I didn't realize I'm gonna coin a new phrase. I believe it was called virtual depression, virtual
Mm.
vocational depression. Even though I had good income stability, I became bored because I
Yeah.
naturally find energy being around people. So moving, running to the gym with a friend, if I'm down and I'm not, and say I'm depressed, because we all get into it. Don't, I hate the image out there.
Yeah.
Everything is successful. I can't stand that. So I found
Yeah.
that commonality. I would call a friend like you and others that I respect, and I would say, "Hey, Mike, I'm in a funk. Let's go work out. Let's go run a triathlon or whatever it is." And I
Yeah.
found that just by moving or going to the gym, going on a walk, changing my environment, and then exposure to another job. What I found with working a second job, because I've had that in my own life, even recently with a major, let's call it uncertainty and volatility in my life. And I had a very unexpected layoff, and it cost me more than I would ever like to admit.
Mm.
Emotionally, my marriage, my identity, um, finances. I was embarrassed to the point of despair.
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
completely depressed. Never felt so much betrayal and rejection. And as a result of that, I saw the things were getting out of my hand. I literally couldn't control what um, I'm used to being in control, and I'm used to being a top performer, and it wasn't until I literally, changed my environment. I had to
Hmm.
get out of where I was, and thankfully, there was enough street cred in my background that I was able to secure a stable career path while um, the ability to, the common vision to continue having real life leadership become a reality and
Hmm.
being able to bring together high capacity, high caliber, high character leaders. And because I found that leaders isolate and and
Oh, for
and
sure.
oftentimes the reason they isolate is they know that they need to be influential, but they don't want to come across weak, and they don't want to lose their, let's say, position authority, and find themselves being too vulnerable, and then that's a perfect cycle of just depression. And this is what I found, Mike. Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
power of the pause. I
Yeah.
began to meditate, thanks to some Anglican, maybe some ancient Catholic rituals that maybe a lot of us don't do today that we probably should. Listening prayer,
Hmm.
stability, practicing morning, mid, and evening, Lectio Divina, just listening. And yeah, I carry my journal everywhere, and I do all the cold plunges, and I work out, and I, try to network. But what I found, I was emptying myself inside. And it
Mm.
wasn't
Mm.
until I was able to sit still in the middle of the chaos for months by myself in an environment where my wife and kids weren't, because I had to go provide. It was a major sacrifice. And instead of being depressed, I filled it with direction. I
Yeah.
made
That's
decisions.
beautiful.
I made major decisions, and I believe my destiny changed. And I believe that God promoted us. And so, for anybody out there that's going through it, I love the power of the pivot, the pause.
Yeah.
So, thank you for sharing that. I hope I didn't put too much out there.
No, I think it's beautiful. I mean, it's you talk about the move, you're talking about the plus ones, right? And that's how you beat the funk. I mean, it's Joey, I'll tell sometimes, we come up with those lists, people have lists, where they write everything down, like, they're checklist
Hmm.
people, right? And then they look at the list, and I've had leaders look at me and say, Mike, I've got a ton of stuff on my list. And I go, I know. I said, why don't you take that list and put it all on sticky notes and put that on the back side of your door? And all I want you to do is when you walk into your office, I want you to pick one sticky note and get that thing done first. That's all I want you to do. Just one. And they try it. And you know what, Joey? They come back and they go, you know what? I picked off 7 sticky notes today. because I was in the zone. And I said, yeah, because you weren't overwhelmed by looking at your whole entire list. See, that's why we say, you eat an elephant one bite at a time. And that's the same with moving forward in life. That's how we grow our relationships is one conversation at a time. It's not like, hey, Joey, you and I want to have a perfect relationship. Let's start there. Well, you know what? We got to pick one thing and we're going to tackle that one thing and we're going to keep growing and moving from that. And had I had this wisdom when I was in my early 20s, when I first married, that would have probably saved my first relationship, right? And I didn't though, because I was ignorant. I had ego. I had all the things, and I was so consumed by what people thought of me and pleasing people that I can relate to you on the empty feeling, 100% empty feeling. I mean, Joey, there was times I'd wake up, and that's why I can
Mhm.
relate to people that might be in bed right now, going, I don't even want to be here. And I remember there was points in my life where I'm like, I can't believe that, God, why am I still here? It's not because I didn't have the courage to kill myself.
Well,
I
Mike,
mean,
what about the other
but
side?
you know, what about the other side of
Wow.
what?
Wow.
I
I
just,
mean, I mean,
I just
first, thank
didn't.
you for
Yeah,
being so
yeah,
genuine, raw, and real. I mean, it's
yeah,
very rare for someone to be as successful as you, but to have a real conversation. And I really do believe it helps comfort other people in their adversity. So I just want to keep applauding you for that boldness to share that with me and any
yeah,
friends that may watch this. Thank you. I wanted to ask the flip side of the coin. There tend to be extremes and being too far on one side. I wanted to ask on the other side, what about the high, um, the person addicted to adrenaline and, getting that cortisol kick and that finds rest in success and busyness and you say they're doing well in their personal and
yeah,
professional life. What do you do? What do you advise the one lesson in their life that they need to possibly look out for or be aware of or possibly implement in their professional life to prevent them from, let's say, a VUCA moment?
yeah, yeah. I mean, for the high performer that says, "Man, I've got it all dialed in," then that means that that's somebody that's
Hmm.
living in the eights, right? They're living in their eights. They've got that dialed in. But I would caution, and I am doing this now, is be sure you're building in margin time. So for me, my margin time is I walk usually about twice a day. Okay. 30 to 45-minute walk in the
Hmm.
morning. I'm usually doing a 15 to 25-minute walk in the evening. Right. And then I've got on my goal sheet that I'm hiking twice a month. And I'm also doing digital
Really?
sunsets. Now I know I gave three different options there, but I would say for the high performer, the digital sunset is really important because that's the seeker. That's somebody that's always striving, right? Going, striving, thriving, trying to keep up. And when I say keep up, it's keeping up whatever the false ghost is that's pulling them forward. Okay, because I do believe that high performers, they oftentimes they believe that their performance, they're so performance driven that that is now their identity. And they've got to have those margin times to understand that their performance isn't their identity. Okay. And that's where I see high performers oftentimes fall victim is if I stop performing, I have no identity left. And that's why I think it's so important to have
Mhm.
that margin time to have those real conversations like, who am I?
What
Think
if,
about it. Go ahead.
what if it's not so much just goal and performance oriented, the high performer, but what if they're achieving goals not
Yep.
because their identity is wrapped up into it. Say they have a healthy self concept and their significance, whether they have a lot or a little. Let's say that they've matured spiritually or even
Mm-hmm.
emotionally, and they're at a level where it's not just about chasing the chase, but perhaps it's confusion. Perhaps they aren't sure which goal or maybe career or entrepreneurship or opportunity, because it tends to be in my own life that I'm good at many things and I'm trying to learn what to say no to and what to go
Mm.
after. How do you know what's a goal in your personal or professional life that would give you the maximum return on your gift and your your grit and your ability to actually live, because we have a very short life after all. We don't want to waste time, energy, and resources. So how do you know what to chase?
Yeah, yeah, that's great. So what you're talking about, Joey, is something I call the rule of five. Okay, so let's back up and talk about the clarity piece, right? We talked about the eights. Okay, we talked about understanding what it means to have an eight in your five areas. Okay, that's the eights. When it comes to opportunities, when it comes to pursuing, what do I pursue? What do I don't pursue? I look at every opportunity and I get a lot of them, probably like you. And it's easy to say yes. And, what do I say no to? So the rule of five is this, and it's so brilliant. I learned this from a dear friend of mine. And I'll tell you the backstory to this real quick. But we were sitting in a coffee shop. He was looking at one of my businesses and he looked at me, Joey, and he said, Mike, I'm going to give you five reasons why I think we should work together. Now, he had all the money. I didn't have the money. Okay. Now I'm getting pretty excited. He said, I'm going to give you five reasons why I think we should work together. And I got totally pumped. And I said, yeah, I'm in. And he said, well, before you say yes, I think you need to understand um, there might be five reasons why you might not want to work with me. And he gave me those. And what evolved out of that, Joey, was this something I call the rule of five today. When I look at every opportunity, when any high performer is looking at opportunities, I evaluate that opportunity through this lens. Okay, what are the five areas I'm going to add value to that opportunity? What does my experience offer? What does my personality offer? What does my skill set offer? What are the five areas I'm going to add value to this opportunity? And how does this opportunity feed my eights? Mentally, physically, spiritually, relationally, financially. How does it feed my eights? When I get that done, then I look at it and I go, well, what are five reasons why I should run like hell from this opportunity? And I'm very honest. And how that people have asked me, how's it different than a pros and cons list? I'll tell you, because when we do a pros and cons list, our mind gravitates towards the pros. We want to say yes. Okay. When we get opportunity, our as men and even as women, we want to say yes. We're like, no, I want to say yes. But when we put it in an objective framework of five areas I'm going to add value, now I have to be extremely objective, because if I'm sitting with you and I'm going to sit with you, Joy, and I'm going to say, Joy, here's five areas I'm going to add value to this opportunity. And I'm going to give you those. You're going to get pretty excited. And then you're probably going to say yes. But then I've got to be really transparent and clear with you, Joey, and say, but Joey, I'm going to tell you there's five areas where I might not be a good fit for this opportunity. People get scared saying that, but this is the authentic conversation. And this is what you promote. And this is exactly what I do. And it could be one of the reasons why I might not be a good fit for this is because I'm expensive. And they'll be like,
Mm,
well, what do you mean you're expensive? And I'll be like, well, your offer is X, and this is what I do that for. And it might not be a good fit, because I'll be honest with you, I would not give you full-time effort if that's what I said yes
it's
to.
good. No, that really
Okay.
works. I'm tell you why. The sales training that everyone goes through, whether being in the sales background, there's more sales trainings than a tap dance and duck. But it's always about not the benefits. Benefits tell, but features sell, and it's the feature that
Yep.
will solve their problem, their pain. And so
Yeah.
it's like the flip. It's just all the distraction out there is you tend to want to talk about your solution and how good you are and
Yeah.
your ROI, but nobody wants to talk about the five reasons why you don't want to work with me. You might as well get the money value conversation up in the front and have the conversation with the person, so they in their brain and all the dysfunction and options that they have to go through, they can really quickly dissect what you bring to the table, how you can help them with their
Yep.
problem,
Yep.
and then why
Yep.
they want to pay for it. So I think that's brilliant, with having that conversation, maybe to get an opportunity. I mean, I recently, just a real talk moment, at the end of this conversation, had an opportunity to keynote, and I was all excited. And I was like, "This is amazing!" And so I had the conversation, and I didn't end up getting the opportunity, but I was thankful to have a very reputable brand of choice reach out, because some stranger read my book. I thought that was wow. As an author, that's a great honor to even have
Yeah.
the opportunity. But I made a rookie mistake, even though I have the background. I focused on what I bring to the table. I was trying to give my best self. Maybe came across too confident, and I wish I would have talked about the five reasons why you might not want to do business with me, because I think it would have opened up wait a minute, that's something we need. That wait,
Yeah,
that's not actually a problem. And then it would have created connection. And
yeah.
that was a learning for me. So thank for any leaders out there that just listen to that. That was gold. And I think that'll really help people in their professional life. Um,
Well, you can apply
Mike,
it
you're
personally
working
too,
on, go ahead,
Joey. I just want to say that you can
personally
apply
too.
that personally. Yeah, like I mean, you think about this. This. I taught my daughters this in the dating game. I'm a dad of two daughters, and I said, when you sit down with a guy, you get on a second date. I want you to ask him this question. Give me 5 reasons why you think we should date, and I want you to listen to his answers. And if you like his
Wow.
answers, then ask him this question. Well, tell me
Wow.
5 reasons why I might not want to date you, and see if he can answer
Come on.
those. Okay.
Come
And I
on.
said, you can flip that too if you want, honey. You can say, hey, give me 5 reasons why you think we should date. And then you listen to his answers and you can flip that and say, well, here's 5 reasons why you might not want to date me. I love Jesus. I go to church on Wednesdays and Sundays. I don't drink. I don't, whatever your answers are, right? You might as well get it on the table up front. Stop wasting time. So believe me, you can do it in your personal life. It works.
I'm gonna put that, I'm gonna work that in my real life. As everyone may not know, I have 6 children, 5 daughters, 1 son, and that'll preach. Just say that you're famous, right? I have 6 children, and
Yep. Yeah.
that's a good interview for my people are like, you must love kids, and I always say, no, I just really love my wife.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
keep
Yeah.
it right, and scare those boys
Yeah.
away. I love that advice to my daughters. Thank you. That was beautiful. I'm
Yeah.
sure others got that value. Well, I want to thank everybody who hung around this long in this real talk conversation. There's so much uncertainty out there today, for sure. Real life is really not a podcast. It's really where content, coaching, and community converge for collaboration, so that we could be successful in our real life, our leadership, and the legacy that God has for us. So, Mike, thanks so much for your time, and let's
Grateful.
continue the conversation in the future.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Well, this was really good if I could figure out how to end it. I'm going to clip it out at the end. Let's see.